Okay, this is CIT 370 System Security, taught by David Snyder. We're Group 4, David Banks. I'm Mary Leon, and I'm Dave Stevenson. We're talking about client-side wireless attacks, and in particular, the assignment for this presentation was to do some research and then to present how to defend against them. So what we opted to do was to show how to defend against attacks by basically trying to evaluate the security of your network through a penetration testing tool. And so let's talk about penetration testing. Basically, it's trying to break into your own network, trying to exploit vulnerabilities, or if you're a professional penetration tester, someone else's network. And before you start, the first thing you should do is obtain written permission from the network owner so that you don't get in trouble later on. You want to have a specific goal of your test. For example, do I want to access a credit card database or some other service or system within the target network? And then you begin your reconnaissance. So to begin with, you want to gather as much information as you can through public sources, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you can find. Your particular client may or may not want you to engage in social engineering to try to gather information. It's up to them, but that's another way of gathering information. So once you've gotten as much information as you can, then you begin your scan. Try to use some tools to find out as much as you can about the available systems on their network, and then begin to identify vulnerabilities. Once you've identified some vulnerabilities, you want to plan the exploits. Now, if you're not a malicious attacker, then planning your exploits is very important because you're dealing with a production system, so you don't want to inadvertently damage anything. So you have to be very careful about what kind of exploits you execute and how safe they are, and some tools rate them so that you can be sure to not do damage. And then once you've got the exploits plan, then you begin to execute them, and whatever exploits are successful, then you begin to get control of some of the machines on the network. And once you have access to one machine, then you try to get access to others nearby, on the same subnet or whatever you can until you reach your goal. And as after you access the systems, the target systems, then you want to gather evidence to prove that you were able, in fact, to exploit the vulnerabilities. So you may copy some files, passwords, whatever you can gather, and submit that in a report to the network owner. So those are the main steps of a penetration attack. And there are a number of tools available to help that. It's a growing industry, and the one tool that we tried out was Metasploit. And of course, there's got a little error in the URL. There we go. But we were able to get a trial login for this software, and the way it works is you can create a project here, and I created one just called Initial Scan, and then once having created that, you can actually go to the project. You can fill out initial information about the project. In this case, we're going to scan IP addresses 192.168.1.1 through 254. So we're just going to, this is really the reconnaissance part where we're scanning and trying to find out what kind of systems are available out there on the network. And once we click Launch Scan, then it'll take several minutes and do port scans and gather some results. So this, once you have the scan results, it'll identify, like for example, I ran this on a guest network, and my guest network is not any computer on the guest network is not supposed to see my main network. However, somehow this thing was able to access some systems on my main network from the guest network. So I found some vulnerabilities here in my home network that I can investigate and try to harden against attack. Try to make that guest work more segregated from my main systems. And it takes, like I said, it takes several minutes to run this, so we didn't want to sit here while it was churning. But this is just one tool of many. Another tool that we looked at was Wireshark, that's able to basically sniff traffic on the network. So there are a number of options. The cool thing about Metasploit, though, is once you've done your scan, you can try to identify specific vulnerabilities. And one of the things I noticed were there are several systems there were on my home network where the net BIOS is enabled, which has known vulnerabilities. And then there are exploits that you can actually execute right from within this tool. So it seemed very impressive to me, fairly comprehensive in its capabilities. But I'm sure there are more like it out there, and it was eye-opening for me to be able to see how some of these things work and how easy it is to really test out your system and see just how secure it is, and also find out what things need to be fixed. So that's our presentation. Again, our Group 4, David Banks, Imara Leon, and Dave Stevenson. Thank you.